Hi there. My name is Ramya Kandasamy, and I am presenting our CMPE 272 final class project. This was worked on by Raymond Ho, Jed Villanueva, and myself, Ramya Kandasamy. So we are just going to look really quickly into our architecture. So what we were trying to do is create an application that has three main HR or human resources functionalities um, with single sign-on. So the three modules that we decided to implement were expenses, so the ability to create expenses and the ability for an administrator to approve or decline them, the time off functionality, which allows employees to request time off, and again, administrators have the ability to accept or reject that. And then payroll for users to be able to view their payroll. One feature that we would like to implement in the future is the ability for the administrator to reduce or increase that payroll. So we're just going to switch to the database really quickly because we're using two users. Our database is actually filled with thousands and thousands of employees and managers because we use the database that was provided to us in class. But due to Slack and sign-on functionality and reasons, we also added two entries for myself and for Jed. And in this demo, I am an administrator. So this is the row of department managers. So as you can see, I'm a department manager, and Jed is going to take the place of an employee. A quick look into our architecture. We have three main services: the time off, expense, and payroll APIs. And we have a UI front end and use Okta for single sign-on. Just to demonstrate that SSO functionality, we do have enterprise Slack integration, which will be demonstrated in the future. From a database perspective, we're basically using employee ID as the foreign key in order to tie all of these different requests or microservices APIs information together. From a deployment perspective, we used AWS, and our configuration will have load balancing for fault tolerance across EC2 instances. And one of the things we would focus on if we were to deploy this pilot into an enterprise application is to make sure we have cross regions and a lot of fault tolerance to ensure that we have that enterprise level of resiliency. Okay, so now we are going to jump into the demo. So I'm first going to show you our time off request, and in order to do that, I need to log in. And again, we're using Okta. So I'm going to log in as Jed, who was an employee. All right, so as you can see, it recognizes me as Jed. I'm going to click on time off, and I'm going to request this week. I'm going to request from January 3rd to January 6th. And as you can see, it only looks at total work hours. It does not take weekends into consideration, which is what we want it to do. So I'm going to submit, and I get a pop-up saying, please wait for your manager to confirm. So as you can see right here, my request is pending. All right, so I'm going to log out and show you what the manager would see in this situation. Okay, so again, as I showed before in our database, I am assigned as a department manager. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And there are two ways I can approve here. As you can see through the UI, I can either approve or decline. I also receive an email telling me that I can either approve or decline here. So I can choose to accept or decline here, and it actually will accept. So if I go back here, you can see that it's approved. And if I log in as Jed, my pending status is now approved. Okay. Another thing I wanted to demonstrate is we only did Slack integration for one user based on cost. So in order to integrate with Okta, we needed enterprise versions of a lot of different applications, and it just didn't make sense to use multiple users just based on from a cost perspective. So we use Slack, but we also know how to integrate with GitHub Enterprise, for example. So I'm going to go ahead and click Slack. And as you can see, it actually logged me in as Ramya Kandasamy. Okay, so that was time off and SE. So I'm now going to demonstrate the expense capability. So I'm logged in as Jed, who is the employee, and I'm going to click on expense. And I'm going to file an expense. I can also upload a receipt. Okay. And it's been filed, which is great. It is pending. So let me demonstrate what the administrator can do, or the manager. So again, Ramya Kandasamy is the manager. So as you can see, I have time off requests, or sorry, expense requests that I can approve or decline. All right. And so this is the expense functionality. And if I were to log back in as Jed, you can see that it's been approved. So we also have our payroll API, and the main difference between being an administrator and an employee is an administrator can view all the payroll or paychecks of everyone in their department. So right now it's just me and Jed, and me being the administrator. So as you can see, I can see Jed's as well as mine. Whereas if I were to log in as Jed, I can only see my own and not my supervisor's. If we were to take this pilot forward, we would want to have the ability for a super admin, for example, to be able to modify pay information. We didn't think it was appropriate for department manager to be able to do that. And another functionality we'd love to implement is the ability to click into one of these and maybe see like a visual breakdown of the hourly rate and total paid.